Hey guys, I hope you're doing great today. So this is another episode of Career Clarity, and today we're going to talk about what employers are looking for that school didn't teach you. So I'm going to do this presentation based on my own experiences. Of course, every single piece of advice that you get out there is based on people's experiences. In this scenario, we have a context where you've actually just graduated, or you're early on in your career and you're looking for a job. So you're getting into the field, into the working area, working space, and you're looking for a job, and more specifically you're looking for a job that is in a government, that is in the government, an established parastatal or legacy employers. In essence, what I mean is these are people who provide job security. So you work there for years, for decades, and you retire there. So if your plan is to get a job into one of these legacy employers, people who are going to secure your job security for the next 10 to 30 years, then these are the things that you need to consider that you are not taught in school. So these are things that you actually need to consider because employers are looking for it. And of course, besides it, you can always get a job out of merit. You can be maybe a smart guy and then you apply and then you get a job. I'm not saying that such things do not happen, but I'm saying in most cases, in a majority of the realities of many people, these are the things that really matter. The things that employers are really looking for. So we're going to start with the first one, and the first one is connections. Yeah, sad reality. This is something that we need to accept as a society, that in Kenya, for you to actually get into a place where you can get job security, this is a place that assures job security for the next 40 years. You need to be connected. You need to know somebody who is in the system, somebody who can front your name, somebody who can do the things they do inside that system so that they can make you get that job. It's a very unfortunate fact in our current society. And the thing is, for me, I try to accept the realities as they come. I observe what is happening in the world, and this is exactly what is happening. For you to actually get a job in the government or a parastatal, you need to be connected. You need to know somebody who knows somebody. That's just the sad reality. The fact also is that not everybody is connected. So, of course, you might want to get into the Ministry of Lands, but you don't know anybody who is in that system, so it's going to be hard for you to get into that space. But you need to look around and see where you can actually fit in. So you need to play the rules, play the game by the rules. So you start by learning the rules, and by learning the rules, what I mean is that first of all, you need to identify where you want to get in. So for instance, if I want to get into a parastatal, maybe something like Kenha or Kura, I need to first identify this is where I want to get into. So when you identify that, because of course you might have heard stories of how the salaries are, the remunerations are. Maybe you have somebody you look up to who is in that space, and that makes you want to get into that space, of course. So you need to first identify this is where you want to get into. And second thing, you need to find anyone close to you that is in the system. So for instance, in that scenario where you know somebody in that system, you need to identify them. And when you identify them, you now start by learning what is it that they know about the system that they can teach you and help you to get into that space. So for instance, things like when do they recruit, and what are their recruiting times, so how do they select people. So you get this information so that you can be informed, and when you move forward, when you're doing this strategy, you're going to do it in a way that is strategic and that is going to improve your chances of getting there. So, and then next you need to now start lobbying, and by lobbying, what I mean is that you have that person who is into the system. You need now to start talking to them and finding ways that they can get you into that system. Sometimes it might involve paying, other times it might involve doing favors for them, maybe doing some work for them. So for instance, you are an engineer, you want to get into the Kura space, you can go to the person who is in that space that is an engineer and tell them that you can do work for them for free, or maybe just do something pro bono just to get their trust. And by doing that, they're going to be like, wanaona there's a chance that they can give you something in return. So lobbying is going to be a long-term game. It's not something that is going to happen within a short period of time. So you should give yourself maybe a year or two of doing this lobbying. This is for people who do not have connections. So you identify that the institution you want to get into, you identify somebody who is in that system, you start talking to them, you ask them to tell you, to teach you how the system works, how to get into the system, and then you start lobbying. By lobbying is by building relationships over a period of time, and then as you do that, you gain ground, you continue learning and continue connecting with more people in that space, and then when the time comes to get now that job or to now apply for that job, all this work that you've been doing for some time, this is going to help you to improve your chances to get in. And so at the end of the day, you need to have a long-term mindset. This is not something that you're just going to do the next 1 month and then you're going to get in. This is something that you need to be strategizing over a long period of time, because unless you're very connected, you need to now start building that connection. So this is basically for those people who don't have connections in a system where they want to get into. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. It's of course going to be tough. Every person has an incentive to make somebody who is in their family or in their circle to get into that system easily. So you have to find a way to add value to such people so that they can now see you as their circle. Now, that is one thing that people will not tell you that is needed in that in most of these parastatals or legacy systems. Without connections, it's hard for you to get in. Now, let's move on to the next thing that is you have not actually been taught. The second thing that you need to understand is that in these systems where there is job security, where there is longevity in career growth, so where you can work for the next 40 years, one thing you need to understand is that already in that system, there are people who exist. So people who have run the system for years, people who have been there for years. So the thing that you need to do for you to actually get in and actually grow in that path is to be somebody who has conformity. Conformity in essence means you understand that there are systems in this place, and then you do as a system prescribe. So they say when you go to Rome, do what the Romans do. So this is the same thing. When you get into a system, do not come in with so much you're trying to change everything. You're trying to show that you know a lot and you're going to change how things are working. The things that are working in that system, however inefficient they are there by design. So being revolutionary does not really change, does not really add to your advantage, does not contribute to you growing in that space, because people are going to feel threatened, and people don't like to feel threatened. They're going to feel like you're going to make their job insecure. So you need to get into that space with a humble heart, understand that you don't know anything, and you're going there to learn, to conform to whatever the system has built. So if you don't do that, it's going to be hard for you. It's going to be hard for you because you're going to be threatening the lives of other people. So if you love the idea of working efficiently, being innovative, and doing all those things that make the world a better place, there is a space for you, and that space is mostly in startups or companies that are solving real world problems. In legacy systems or traditional employers, these things are not prescribed. They are not easily embraced. So you have to have that in mind. This is not something that you're going to be taught, but when you have it in mind, it's going to actually improve your chances of getting in and growing in that space, especially, as I've said, in legacy systems. Now let's move on to the next point, which is number 3. Number 3 is about aptitude. And what I mean by aptitude is your ability to learn and to acquire skills. So in essence, when you get into this system, it doesn't really matter how knowledgeable you are. You always get into this system or into these companies with not knowing how things are done. Every single person gets into this system being clueless. So you have to recognize that you're not getting into that space to teach people how to do their work. You see, however smart you are, you're getting there in a humble position. You need to now embrace that place and start learning. So in the real world, little of what you are taught in school is applied. Most of the times you find yourself specializing in a certain space. So it doesn't matter how extensive the degree that you studied for is. When you get into the work world, there are certain things that you're actually going to do specifically, and most of the things, 90% of the things that you learned in school is not going to matter. So it doesn't really matter how smart you are. What actually matters is that you are willing to learn, and not necessarily learning, but being ready to be taught. You see? So whether you're able to execute your duties or not depends on your ability, speed, and openness to be taught. You need to be humble and to be open to learning. So that is the third thing that you need to recognize. You need to have that ability and willingness to acquire skills, to learn how things are done in that system. Because when people see that you are ready to learn and that you're ready to conform to how they do their things, they're going to embrace you. They're going to see you as somebody who needs to be, who can be guided, and therefore they're going to open up to you. Now let's move on to the next point. We have proactiveness. So proactiveness is one thing. This is actually a big one. Proactiveness essentially means that you are taking initiative and responsibility to make things happen rather than waiting for circumstances to dictate your actions. So in essence, this is ile scenario ya unaweza jituma. Are you somebody who can actually go out there and do things? You're not the kind of person who sits down and just waits for work to come to you. You actually move. You make movements, you take action, you go out there and get work. So in essence, for instance, you're in an office, you have not been given any task. You need to go to your supervisor or the person who is above you and ask them whether they can give you a job, or not necessarily a job, but a task. You need to ask them, what are you doing? What are you working on? When you see what they are working on and there's something that you can contribute in or you can help, offer to help them. So the first 5 years of your career is all about learning. You should focus less on making money, making a lot of money, because that's not your time to make a lot of money. It's actually the time for you to learn, because for you to make a lot of money, you have to be somebody who is essentially very valuable to the system. So this is where you build the skills and you build a reputation that is hard to replace. Unless you're hard to replace, it's hard for you to actually have a big, to have agency to make a lot of money. So this is the time you need to really be humble and focus more on the learning process. And for you to learn, actually, you need to do the work. So in the real world, in the work world, it's not about how you study. It's about what you do. That is how you learn. So you can't really think that when you go and study, spend most of the time reading about whatever you're doing, whatever your duties and responsibilities are, that you're going to actually learn. It's not going to work that way. You learn by doing, by getting work done. So you ask for work and you get it and you do it within the time you have been given. That is how you prove your value. So you need to build yourself into a person who can take over the responsibilities of your seniors, so that they can have a sigh of relief for them. Like they can, whenever they're out of the office, they should feel like they have somebody who is going to take care of things in the office, and things are not going to go bad. That is how you become valuable and you become indispensable. And one thing I can say is that you don't spend your time being jealous about when you find your colleagues or your seniors are enjoying the perks of being in that system for a long time, and they're maybe going out, they're not spending so much time in the office, and they're doing little work. This is not your time to feel like that. There's actually going to come to your time is going to come in the future. So for now, even if you're doing all the work, you are toiling so hard while your colleagues are not, while your seniors are not really doing the same, this is the time for you to actually embrace that kind of work and learn. So wejitume for the next 5 years, do the work, be the best at what you're doing. And now finally we have the final thing that most people will not tell you about, that is very important for employers, especially in the legacy employment system. So communication is about how you talk to people in the office or in your work areas. Most people don't really see the value of this, but it's very important that you find or you learn how to communicate well with people in the office. So communication is it's going to really impact growth in your life, and mastering communication can practically change every aspect of your life. This world, especially in the working world, it's all about how you relate with other people, and communication is a big part of it. So in essence, you need to find a way to do this very masterfully, and it takes time. You cannot really master this, how to communicate with people in the office and in the working area, within a day or maybe a month. It takes time. You have to learn how to relate with these people. So it starts from how do you talk to them? How, maybe when you get into the office in the morning, how do you talk to them? Do you greet them and maybe show respect in how you greet them? Do you reach out to them whenever you have a problem? Do you how do you actually relate with them in the office? That is one thing. The second thing is, how do you talk about these people in the office? So this is something that I personally have also learned the hard way. Sometimes you think you're talking to your friend and you're sharing things about another employee, and you feel like you can be safe saying that, and that is something that I've found the hard way, that it's not really the case. There is always somebody who is listening for the sake of the person that you are talking about, and it doesn't really matter how this information will get to that person, but eventually it will get to that person. So don't talk bad about other people. And the reason why I'm saying that is because you do not really know what that person that you're talking badly about is all about. So there are some people who might look very innocent and very humble in the office, but these are very powerful people who have a lot of money, people who have established themselves into the industry. They have a lot of influence. So when you talk negatively about them and this information gets to them, these people can mess up your life or can make it hard for you, especially in that in the legacy system kinds of employment, because that is where there's a lot of office politics. In startups things are a little bit different because they're trying to make decisions fast so that they can achieve product market fit and all that. But in the space of parastatals and government agencies and stuff like that, systems are already established. All that matters now is office politics and how you relate with people. So you need to really tone down how you talk about, how negatively you talk about other people. You should instead talk more positive about other people. That is how it gets to them, and then you find that they become more welcoming to you. Another thing you need to do is to listen a lot. So instead of talking a lot, especially when you're learning, it is important that you listen a lot and learn. Another thing is you need to be moderate. Moderate in essence that you are not necessarily a people pleaser, and at the same time you're not a know-it-all. You need to find a way to get into the middle, somewhere where it is you are both somebody who knows how to relate well with people, and at the same time you're somebody who can be assertive in cases where you need to be assertive. Another thing I can say also is you need to identify somebody in your office or your work area who has taken it upon themselves to guide you. It is very often when you get into it, not very often, but once in a while when you get into the office space, when you get a chance to an employment somewhere, you will find people who will take a keen interest in you, people who will see so much potential in you, and they will tell you and show you, and they'll tell you about it, and they will show you through their actions, through the way they reach out to you and ask you to do things for them, stuff like that. You will always find somebody who, you will often find somebody who will see you as somebody who can be them in the next few years. So you need to identify these people and take them very seriously. Make them your friends, because these are the people who are going to they're going to kukutetea in those high level meetings and decisions where you do not necessarily have a say. So these are people who are going to be in your defense, you see. So identify these people and be their closest friends, and be somebody who can actually add value to them. Yes, and I'll finally finish this presentation with a quote from Tony Robbins, especially for the last part, where he says that the way you communicate with others and ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. So this is how you need to approach your initial years of employment as somebody who has just graduated, or you're early on in your career path. These are the things that you need to take in mind. It's not the way you might want it to be, it is how it is in the system. So first of all, if you don't have connections, find a way to get connected and find people who can actually help you. Secondly, you need to conform. Don't get into that space and try to teach people how things are done. Go and learn, be humble. Thirdly, you need to be somebody who can actually learn. It doesn't matter how smart you are. If you get into that system, what matters is how willing and able you are to acquire skills and learn how to do things. Thirdly, you need to be proactive. Proactiveness essentially means that you are showing your value at an early age. You are that person who goes out there and gets that job that you need, or that task that you need to do to help the people around you, add value to them. Then finally, how you communicate. This is going to determine how you grow from whichever stage you are in your career up to the point where you want to be. So it is all about communication, all about how you relate with other people. So be that person who is very smart in the way you communicate, respect other people, and always have a benefit of doubt, of course, whenever you interact with people, so that they can prove their value, and you can also have it easy with people. Yes, so that's all for today. That is how those are the five things that your employers are looking for that school did not teach you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you about these things, about career clarity. If you find this video helpful, kindly drop a comment or share with somebody who you know it can help. Thank you.